Hey everybody, today I want to teach you about the 7 African powers. You've probably heard of them if you've ever gone to Botanica or you've seen other practitioners on this app light candles for the 7 African powers. A lot of people don't know who they are, and I just saw a video by another creator talking about the 7 African powers, and their video was not correct. And so this video is here to explain to you the historically accurate story of the 7 African powers. So the image used to represent the 7 African powers is this. There's Jesus on the cross with all these tools around him. And then there are all these Catholic saints. But above the Catholic saint, you'll see there's names of Orisha, Obatala, Yemoja, Shango, who is syncretized with Santa Barbara, Saint Barbara, because yes, we all know that Africans that were brought over in the transatlantic slave trade, in order to preserve their teachings alive, had to syncretize their Orishas with Catholic saints in order to keep the religion alive. There's a book called The 7 African Powers, the Orishas, that was written by this person that also is not accurate, because the 7 African powers are not the Orishas. The 7 African powers are spirits of the dead, and the concept of the 7 African powers comes from Espiritismo, Spiritism, and it is a Puerto Rican concept. You see, the teachings of Allan Kardec, a lot of people say Allan Kardec because they don't know how to pronounce his name. He was a French man, he was a Catholic, and then he became a spiritualist. This gentleman right here, he wrote many books, the most famous called The Gospel According to Spiritism. He wrote a lot of books, and those books were translated from French into Spanish and also into Portuguese, and his books made it all the way down into the Caribbean, all the way down into Brazil. And the doctrine according to Spiritism, according to Allan Kardec, dramatically shifted the practices of people that practice traditional religion in the entire Western Hemisphere, North America, South America, Caribbean, everywhere in between, to the extent that if you want to practice Orisha tradition, at least in Cuba or in the United States, it is absolutely impossible to separate the teachings of Allan Kardec from the Santeria religion. The two are completely enmeshed with one another. And Allan Kardec's doctrine is a Christian doctrine, which is why we can say Lukumi. I must have got a package from Amazon. It's why we can say that the Lukumi religion is not African, it's African derived. It's a practice that developed in the diaspora. And I'm going to talk about Allan Kardec in a future video and tell you way more about Spiritism. So let's get back to the 7 African powers, because you can find their statue on Amazon or at Botanica. People make 7 African power soaps. These are a really beautiful pair of 7 African power elekes. And of course, the most famous is the 7 African powers candle. So why is the candle rainbow colored? As you can see, I'm wearing elekes today. This is my Ifa eleke, okay? This represents Ifa, the Ifa religion, and Orunmila. But I'm also wearing my Egun or Egungun eleke. Who are the Egungun? They're the ancestors, collectively. And in the diaspora, we use the colors of the rainbow to represent all the spirits of the dead that are ancestors, ancestral spirits. In the 1940s and 50s, Puerto Ricans and Cubans migrated from the Caribbean up into New York and into America. And those are the people that brought Orisha consciousness into the United States. There's a wonderful book called Botanica, which talks about Botanica culture and how all of the spirituality that comes out of the Caribbean, specifically in Cuba and Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, even Haiti, um, came into the United States and was preserved alive in little shops where mediums and spiritualists and traditional practitioners would come and buy supplies, and get together and have misas. Okay, misas are seances. They're like a spiritual mass where mediums will come together and they will be mounted by spirit and they will prophesy and give messages to everyone who is present. But we're talking about dealing with ancestors and spirit guides. We're not talking about the Orishas proper. And the 7 African powers are not closed. Anybody can buy a 7 African powers eleke and wear them if you have those ancestors. Anybody can buy a candle or floor wash and light candles and say prayers to the 7 African powers because they're your ancestors. There's a website that's called Santeria Church of the Orishas. It's a great website. It's got a lot of great information on it. And in this article titled The 7 African Powers, it says that the tribes that are the 7 African powers are the Yoruba, the Congo, the Takua, the Kisi, Kalabari, Arara, and Mandika peoples. Mandika peoples. However, those 7 tribes, okay, that are the 7 African powers, sometimes those tribes change. Like there's Igbo, the Fan and Yu people. So who the 7 African tribes are that are the 7 African powers are can change depending on which practitioner you ask. But the 7 African powers comes from Puerto Rican and Cuban espiritismo, spiritism, spiritualism. And this image comes from spiritism. And it's not closed. Anyone can talk to or venerate the 7 African powers, ask for their blessings, because they're considered saints, okay? And I just wanted to take the opportunity to show you my 7 African power and indeed 7 Indian power shrine. This is kind of like my Bovida that has 9 glasses of water with Jesus on the cross in it. That's my Madama. And Francisca. And I have the candle, and I have the statue, and I have the Indio, which represents the Tainos, the indigenous people, the first people to be colonized in the New World. Yes, that's Madama's Bible, and that's her copy of the collection of selected prayers by Allan Kardec. They're in my kitchen because we cook together and she helps me when I'm making magic. But since I have 2 minutes left on this video, there's something else I would like to say. As you can see behind me, there's my Orunmila. That's my Ifa, and that's Oshun. There are a lot of people that practice Ifa and practice Lukumi that want to tell people that going to a botanica and buying a statue of Oshun or a statue of Yemoja, like this. Here's Orula. That you can't do that you can't take it home, that you can't create a little altar for the Orisha. Now, I'm talking about Orisha now. I'm not talking about the Egungun. There are a lot of girls that will go get an Oshun statue, bring it home, put out honey beside her, put out flowers and candles to venerate her. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with venerating the Orishas in that way. I flew all the way to Africa to get fully initiated in Ifa, and I'm a fully initiated Oshun priest. And all of the stuff that comes from botanicas is spiritism, it's spiritualism, and it's powerful stuff. And there's nothing wrong with practicing spiritism and spiritualism. People who want to get initiated like I did into these practices can. But anybody who wants to venerate the Orishas at home and pray to them however they want, that's okay too. And I'm going to talk more about that in another video. How people can respectfully honor the Orishas without being initiated into the traditions. Okay, that was a lot of information. Oh my God, bye.